I want to start by just thanking a few people that have made this day possible and who are worked extremely hard for all of us to be able to be here. First of all, I want to thank Ray Cordero, Director of Upward Bound, and Rachel Weldon, Director of Student Support Services, both of them part of the TRIO program here at Texas State. Without their energy and devoted support, we would not be meeting here with you today. I'm also very thankful to their support staff, Karina Madera and Andrea Gunn, and the Alkek Library, who has actually supplied the space that we will be meeting in the future sessions for our bootcamp workshops. And last but not least, our special guest, Caruana Gatimu from Microsoft, who has really just generously donated her time to be here with you and to be able to talk with you. I'm going to pass the microphone right down to Ray Cordero just to allow him to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Solis, and to everybody for being here. And to echo some of the comments that you just made, I do agree when Dr. Solis had told me about this. So my name is Ray Cordero. I'm the Senior Director for TRIO programs here at Texas State University. And to those participants that are here that are a part of SSS and Student Support Services STEM, I think it's important, first of all, to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here. The second is just my TRIO elevator speech that I give people. Don't forget that you were part of a national program that's federally funded by the Department of Education that services over 900,000 students annually with a budget of $1.2 billion. Very, very large conversation piece. This is a point of pride for your resumes. I think it's important that it's included. You never know who is going to be on the other side of a proverbial desk, be it in person or virtual, that may be familiar with TRIO and what your journey is. TRIO programs were created here at Texas State University by President Lyndon B. Johnson. He signed the Higher Education Act, and he signed that November 8th, 1965. So he gave birth to this national program and this growing campaign that's now in the billions of funded dollars and hundreds of thousands of students and millions of alumni right here on campus. And I think it's really important that we note that. I also think that it's important, we've got some alumni, so if you're familiar with John Quinones is a alumni directly of TRIO programs here at Texas State. He was part of Texas State's Upward Bound program. John Quinones does like ABC Broadcasting and What Would You Do if you've seen any of those shows. But anyway, back to the point. We are always looking at ways to innovatively connect with our partners. And our partners include our faculty and staff on campus. And when Dr. Solis first approached me with this idea, he was talking about it from a stance of changing generational opportunity by looking at the ways that coding is immersed into everything that we do nowadays and how it will continue to be immersed into everything that we do. And so as we were talking, he was just, it seemed like it was very relevant for not just folks that want to be involved with coding proper, but how can this have an application for any endeavor that you may have in life? And so Dr. Solis, I want to in turn send a thanks back to you on behalf of Rachel Weldon Caron, who could not be here. Certainly I see Karina Madera and Andrea Gunn. Thank you both for all of your support with this initiative. And Dr. Solis for your vision and for including TRIO into something that I believe is a culmination, as you said, of 2 years worth of hard work that is truly, I believe, going to be beneficial and a pivotal page turner for our students and their success. So thank you very much for having us. Welcome to everybody, and I hope that the session is amazing.
Thank you, Ray. I want to say a few words before we get onto our guest, but still really excited to get to that point, actually. But I think it is important to highlight from what you saw in the video that we are talking both about the importance of digital technologies in today's world, in today's workplace, and the importance of digital technologies in the future workplace and for our future as a whole. Even more important, is how critical it is for all of us to be represented as participants in shaping this digital future. After all, the digital space does not just influence the economy, as many of us tend to think, but it actually shapes access to educational resources, the way job opportunities are allocated, housing loans are given or not given, and even the sentencing processes that are currently in use in our legal system. There are a number of tendrils, if you wish, that the digital ecosystem reaches into that we're not even aware of. So it is important for us to also reach digital representation for some other reasons. It is important for the digital ecosystem to be diverse because diverse individuals bring diverse points of view and a diverse focus to the problems that we face as a society, and therefore they can contribute solutions to a variety of different spaces. So it's something for also for us to keep in mind. And one way to illustrate that point is for me to share with you this particular video that I'm about to show you. I promise this is the second of just 3 videos. We will not be doing a video-heavy set of sessions because I'm really excited to get to our guest and to actually start our conversation. So hang with me. Here comes another video, and then we will get on with our fireside chat.
Being a young woman, and especially a young Black woman, it's like you have to do everything 10 times more than anyone else would do.
In South Africa, one of the biggest issues is gender-based violence.
There was not a day that would pass where I didn't see a story of gender-based violence or a woman being killed.
With the Microsoft Hackathon, we decided to build a solution that could help all these women in South Africa.
Our project is She, a safe home for everyone. This platform is to help women find a way to speak up and profile their abusers, get out of that situation, and essentially build their lives again.
Through this Safe at Home hackathon, we wanted to give women tools in their hands so that they could even guarantee their own safety whilst they were at home.
The Azure platform allowed us to be able to host all of our data and all of our code without worrying about security. GitHub allowed us to share our code to the team members so that they could pull that code and continue working on it. We also used Azure Maps for our GIS location code service, and when a person were to request for assistance, they can go and pick up the person at the right place.
In South Africa, we actually have more than 100% of mobile phone penetration. So when you do develop an app on a phone, you can get almost to literally everybody.
We also used the Azure translation because we built our platform in different languages. And we used the Azure bot services as well. We used Africa's Talking for our USSD service for the people who don't have smartphones.
Through the USSD code, they would be able to find an organization that could help them nearby, like the Tears Foundation.
During the lockdown, we were receiving up to 10,000 calls a month from people who needed help.
So we need the technology to be user-friendly for everyone so that they can report a safe and comfortable place.
What's special about the She app is that it provides victims with the right information, even to help them prevent the incident from happening.
By tackling the problem now, we hopefully making the future generations find a solution to a really big problem in South Africa.
Being able to build a solution for people who go through the same things that I go through is really amazing because it makes me see that I can make a difference in my community.
Well, that video always just brings it home for me. I hope you found it as inspiring as it has been for me every time I watch it. So right now is the moment I have been waiting for with a lot of excitement, and it's the moment when I introduce our guest speaker. It is really an honor and a privilege to introduce Caruana Gatimu to all of you. Caruana is an executive at a small company that we just heard about. I think it's called Microsoft, and it's only been around for a year or two, I think.
Or 40.
Or 40. It's certainly younger than I am, so that's all I'm going to say. Caruana's title is Principal Manager for Customer Advocacy Group for the Microsoft Teams Engineering, among other things. And I am not going to do the whole standard thing of, reading through her whole bio and her LinkedIn profile and all those kinds of things, because I think our having a conversation is a lot more exciting than, and have her share in her own words what she's done with her life. But one of the things I found really interesting is that she's also the host and executive producer of Coffee in the Cloud on YouTube. And she's a frequent speaker on empowering women for leadership in technology and the future of collaboration. So now please join me in welcoming Caruana.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you very much. I am thrilled to be here. I want to thank you for letting me participate and be a part of this important program. And I haven't seen that video in a while. I have to admit it choked me up a little bit. So I will recover. But, it's just a perfect example of why the work we do is so important and why I'm so passionate about doing it in the Microsoft ecosystem. But it takes all of us to make a change. So really happy to be here. Thank you so much for including me.
Thank you. And I wanted to share with you just a little bit about our students. We did a little bit of you know what? Instead of doing scripted stuff again, we have a relatively small group of students. I would like to have asked them to introduce themselves. I know that's a little bit of imposing, and tell us what their major and potential minor might be. So when I call your name, if at all possible, please, turn on your cam and let us see your face. All right, so let me see where I can find our participants list. Here we go. So I'm going to be calling just as they appear on my screen. So Angel Aguirre.
Yes, hi.
How are you? What is your major?
I'm currently in engineering, and I don't remember what specific part because it's pretty confusing since the semester's just starting and I need to get a bunch of things in order. And a potential minor for me, I was really looking forward to coding or just looking into cybersecurity.
Great. How about Jose Campos?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to get my camera. Yeah, I'm a construction science and management major with a business administration minor. I had seen the opportunity to do this coding, no coding program, and I just thought it was something pretty good to learn and just learn something new that I can apply later on in my career.
For sure.
Absolutely. Let's see. Mariah Gutierrez.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hi guys, I'm currently double majoring in marketing and biochemistry.
Perfect.
And you seem to be in the biochemistry lab.
Yes.
Good for you. Melissa Menchaca.
Hi, I don't know if, can you
There
hear
you
me?
are. Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you and see you.
Hi, so I'm Melissa. I'm majoring in microbiology and a minor in psychology. I actually work with SSS, so that's where I heard from the program, and I feel like these skills would be good to know.
Great.
That's great.
Great. Iris Okoro?
Hi there, can y'all see me?
Not yet, but we can hear you.
All right, can you see me now? No.
No, do you have a cover on your webcam? That's what it
No,
looks like.
it's okay. I was gonna talk.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, my name is Iris. I am majoring in electrical engineering. I am triple minoring in computer science, physics, and applied mathematics. I found out about the program through SSS STEM, low code. I thought it was really cool. Because when I was first introduced to computer science, I was really intimidated by the code, and I was just like, how can I get involved in this without having to write all this fancy stuff, you know?
Exactly.
All right, we're going to have just a quick turnaround and just have Andrea and Karina just say a quick hi. They're the two faces that people also need to see because they've been super helpful to the program. So let's start with Andrea. Oh.
Okay. Wait, can y'all hear me? See me?
Yeah.
Okay. Did we miss Christina? I'm not sure if Christina was able.
Oh.
Christina,
yes, I think we did. Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Christina, I apologize.
I'm majoring in manufacturing engineering with the mechanical systems concentration, and then I'm also minoring in business and applied math.
Great.
And I also heard through it from the SSS STEM group.
Great. All right. We're gonna keep going and last. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so I'm back. I just lost Christina because I met with her today, and she's one of my students. Like many of my students are here that I've met with, so I'm glad to see them here. And like, was really excited to present this opportunity for them to join. But yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm Andrea Gunn. I am a Texas State alum. I graduated from Texas State with a biology degree and minored in psychology. Yeah, so all STEM related. I have no type of brain for computer science. I think it's super interesting. Tech right now is like a big thing. I think it's important to learn these things. So I was really happy that Dr. Solis presented this. So I'm very glad and honored to be here and that you presented this to our students. I'm very excited for them.
Thank you, Andrea. And just to let you know, I have a doctorate in biology, so there's still hope for all of us. and Karina Madera, please.
Yes, could y'all see me and hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so my name is Karina. I'm the Grant Senior Secretary here at Student Support Services and Student Support Services STEM. I am so honored to be here and to meet everyone and our special guest. I think this is a great opportunity for our students and for our students to grow, especially in the computer science, because we're such in a digital world. A little bit about me, I graduated from Texas State fall of 2020 with a degree in psychology and minor in social work. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I am excited for this to start.
Great. Well, we're going to get started actually right now. So we're going to ask Caruana really to tell us more about what her current role at Microsoft is.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So my job title is that I'm a principal manager, which means I'm one of the 12,000 out of 150,000 mid managers and leaders inside Microsoft, and I run what's called a customer advocacy group. And a customer advocacy group really has two pillars to it, which is about community management, creating and growing core communities around our products and around digital transformation and career development. And then what we like to call scale enablement. And that is the technical solution design and delivery that I do in my team.
And what is perfect about this job is it combines two things that I love, which is storytelling and being with people and being involved, like kind of in that human side of the business, as well as the deep technical components required to actually build and design solutions. I'm a business solution architect by trade, which is a fancy way of saying people tell me their problems and I figure out ways to fix them with technology. And I do write code. I don't write as much of it now that I'm a manager as I used to, but the knowledge of what that means is what's been important to me rather than the actual writing of itself. And what's awesome about the way my job has changed over the years, I've been in technology for more than 25 years now, is that, now you don't have to write code to build things, right? You have Lego blocks of components that you can put together, but there is still an art form and creativity required and listening skills required to be able to do that well. So we teach that on my team. I'm very privileged to be inside Microsoft Teams. If you may have heard of our product, it's been kind of the center of a lot of things along with Zoom and other tools during the pandemic. And in my team, we have specific industries that we support. And so education, healthcare, and nonprofit are the three industries that I support on my team before the pandemic. Of course, you can imagine what that did to us when the pandemic came. But it's just the best job in the world, right? And I'm so privileged to be here because I need to fess up to something right away. I don't have a degree. Right. I have this job without a degree. I do not have a degree in computer science. I am theater trained. Marketing and business were my thing. I thought I was going to be a dancer and a choreographer. Technology was my day job. And I've done things like independent film production and commercial design. And back in the day, I was a dancer in a troupe that traveled around the West Coast. And so I'm a creative person in the technology field. And what I love about what's happening in digital right now is those two things are coming together. And so for those of you, I think I heard somebody who had a business management or marketing background or business administration, that sort of thing. There's no exclusion now. You don't have to have a degree in computer science to work at one of the best companies in the world for technology and innovation, or to start up your own. Right? You can understand the way digital influences things, even if you have a degree in different areas. And frankly, I came into this business because of my expertise in legal technology. I worked in law firms and I worked, for nonprofits and for police department. And so that was what my expertise was, and that actually led me in here. So it's open to everyone at this point, and I really feel like that's an important thing to land with all of you. I'm so excited and a little intimidated about your triple minors and all that stuff. That's so wonderful. I have some college education, but I didn't finish because of my career and personal issues. So it's just wonderful that you're doing this. But it's an inclusive place now, or at least it can be, especially if you choose to make your own way. So yeah, it's a great job. I'm very lucky to have this job.
Well, thank you. That's pretty amazing. We need to talk about this whole dance business at some point. So I know that typically people don't ask this question, the following question, but you and I have talked in the past, and I think I feel comfortable enough to ask you this. So no college degree, but you do a hell of a lot of things. How much does that pay for somebody in your position?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I like to talk about this all the time because people get so hinky about it, but you need to know what you're working for. So at Microsoft, there are defined levels. They're numbered levels that you come into for a position. And I'm what you call in the principal band. And that nets you at the beginning somewhere from between $180,000 to $225,000 a year as your base pay. And I'm at the upper end of that because I've been at Microsoft for 10 years. So you get 3% a year about as a cost of living adjustment. So I think my base pay now is around $230,000 a year. But then on top of that, you're eligible for bonus. Bonus is where life is in most big companies, right? And when you sign up, when you're 65, you're eligible for up to 20% of your base pay as a bonus. And now I got promoted last March. So now I'm eligible for up to 40% of my base pay as a bonus. And also some of that comes as stock. So my bonus last year was $115,000. And then they count the benefits that you get as part of your what they call total compensation. So you'll see this online a lot. What is the total compensation for a particular role, TCO? So last year I made just under $400,000
That's pretty amazing.
with no college degree, but I do work my butt off. I have to say, I work a lot, and I'm very good at selling my solutions, politicking inside Microsoft, getting broad awareness for what my team and I both do. I'm a very visible person, and I've had some luck and some great mentors along the way that have helped me, right? And but I have been very intentional about my career path when I reinvented myself and moved into the Microsoft ecosystem formally about a decade ago, a little more like 15 years ago. I had a plan, right? That I wanted to, rebrand myself in these communities of practice as the person who was the business solution architect, because you can fall into a trap in any big company area where people say you either code or you're sales and marketing. That's not true. Don't let anybody tell you that. I'm a perfect example of somebody who, I'm that business solution architect, and I do evangelize our products, but I don't sell. I don't have to carry a number, and I don't write code every day. I am, it's a little bit of a unicorn, but that we are the ones that are highly in demand right now. People who can do that. And if you have a specialty in a certain area, like, core engineering or biotech or whatever it is, you become even more valuable in this industry right now because of what you know about that specific area, manufacturing, whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm always happy to talk about how much money I make because I think people need to know what they're working for. And it's not some big secret, If someone won't tell you what they're doing, then, what are we all here for? I will say that even though I make a good deal of money, what's more important to me actually is the meaning that I get from my job. But that's a different conversation. But I will say that I have the privilege of being able to say that because I do make a good deal of money at Microsoft. People complain about Microsoft sometimes like we don't get paid enough, but I'm like, really? How much money do you actually need? I can sleep at night because of where I work. I'm not sure everybody else can. So,
Well, and a little bit earlier, you made a confession, I think, right, about your degree. So I'll make another confession. And I'm just like, I'm a Carolina fanboy, so I just like love to hear you speaking. I think you're really an amazing presenter, and you're really passionate about collaboration. And like I say, you have achieved a great deal of success. But you just said this. You have found this really rare space where you make good money doing what you love.
Yes.
Let's talk about the beginnings of your journey. I think it's important for people to understand, how people get there, right? Can we talk a little bit about your formative experiences in your early years and the kinds of things that were important to allow you to get where you are today?
100%. I mean, I feel like, the reason that I didn't finish my degree is because I was homeless, right? My mother had a lot of mental issues, and it made for a lot of home insecurity. And so I had to work, right? I couldn't just go to school, and I didn't have access to understanding the programs and services around me. I grew up here in the Pacific Northwest in a very small town. Most of the people in there didn't know what to do with me. They'd never seen a biracial woman before, so they had no idea. I'll never forget the math teacher who assumed I was stupid, even though I had taken more advanced classes than he was even offering, because math is one of the things I'm really good at. But he wanted to send me back because he assumed I wouldn't pass all of his tests. I feel like some of those experiences, food insecurity, family difficulties, low expectations in my educational environment, financial insecurity, those are my formative experiences, and they have left me driven. I am driven to ensure that nobody has to go through what I went through to get here. It is the thing that makes me get up every single day. And, back in those days, we didn't talk about mental health issues the way we can now. I hid that for a very long time. I hid the fact I didn't have a degree for a very long time. I was ashamed of it. And I'm also a survivor of sexual assault probably one of the reasons that She Hackathon program gets to me so much. There wasn't that kind of a thing. There was no one to tell what happened to me when I was 14. No, there was no one to tell. And so it left me with a personality that's very self-reliant, that is very focused on creating stability around me because I didn't have it, and very much interested in making sure that other people don't have to withstand some of the racism and sexism that I have dealt with along the way. And it's why, for instance, I published a course on Microsoft Learn called the Service Adoption Specialist course. And I've convinced everyone in Microsoft that my job is a professional role in the industry. And I'm got the funding to enable myself to build more of that courseware. And next fiscal year, we'll turn it into an actual certification that will stand alongside the technical certifications you get for Power BI or Azure or Modern Work, Microsoft 365. So then no one else will have to be like, well, why are you valuable? No, I've got this certification. Microsoft says this is the way to do this. And so I think those early experiences in my personal life, I loved school. I loved it. I loved going to college, but I had to get a job. And then and I was dancing at the same time. And eventually I got promoted at my day job to become a general manager. And it was such a big job, I knew I had to leave my dancing little stuff I was still playing with behind. I actually cried that day, but it was the beginning of my technical leadership career at working for a Microsoft partner and running one of their divisions. And so, I kept getting promoted, and that because of that, I never felt moved to go back to school, and I frankly didn't have time because of the kinds of jobs I was getting. But I'm very, very lucky that I am so focused on self-educating. I have read, there's 4 MBA program books on my bookshelf out in my library. I've read them all. Like I'm a voracious reader, and I retain information very well that way. And then I go and find the person who wrote that book and I send them a note, and then sometimes they'll talk to me, right? And they'll tell me things. So between being outgoing and reaching out to learn from others and self-educating, I've been pretty good about being able to increase my knowledge base as my jobs have changed. So that's a really long answer, but I did want to share a little bit about my backstory because people look at me now and they don't understand where I actually came from. I had this conversation with my husband the other day. We're looking for a new house, and it's like 2 kids from the wrong side of the tracks in this tiny little town. I married my high school sweetheart now, and it's amazing the life we have, but it's because of the community and it's because of programs like this. I've always taken full advantage of these kinds of community training and, initiatives, that Microsoft has sponsored some and others, and they have helped me to build my technical skills, my technical acumen, to go along with the kind of human skills that I have that are a little bit natural, but that I have also tried to build up. You have to have both, I think, in this business.
Well, and speaking of your natural skills, I think I've heard you refer to yourself as someone at some point as a best practices guru.
Yes, that is true.
And I love that you oftentimes refer to hashtag human first in your presentations and talks. And even in one of your Coffee in the Cloud episodes, you talk about how people really should conduct effective meetings. And you open with 2 items that really caught my attentions that were not technical. So it wasn't about placing your camera here and placing a microphone there and all that kind of stuff, but they were really human first pointers. And there you talk about conducting open, or actually being open and welcoming. And then you also ask your audience to embrace diversity of thought and style.
100%.
So can you talk a little bit more about, human first and being open and welcoming and embracing diversity of thought and style for us?
I would love to. So yes, that hashtag's now evolved to people first. That thing that we started, this idea and strategy that we started in my team back in April or May of 2020. We've been thinking about it for some time, but with the pandemic, it really come forward. It's now gone all the way up to Satya and the Microsoft leadership committee and come back as this people first initiative, which is huge, right? I mean, never in my life did I think that something I worked on would end up on Satya's desk. Really. I mean, that's major, right? But sometimes when you're onto something, it resonates with people. And the technology is great. I love technology, but that's not the heart of creativity or productivity in an organization. People confuse it all the time. Like the technology is what's important. What was important in that case study that you showed, was the women and the people who were focused on improving the lives of their community, right? And then they approached it in the way they approached it. I might do something different, like raise more funding for those NGOs, or I might do something different. But being open to not opposing viewpoints, but opposing methods, when you're aligning with people is so important. And it's a bit of a lost art form right now. Certainly with, not so much in Microsoft, but in the world in general, this idea of collaboration and cooperation has somehow become unsexy, when in fact it's the only way we're going to solve some of the big issues that we have in front of us, whether they're, economic or climate or culture. It doesn't matter. We have to be able to work together. So the best practices that we evangelize, that's a part of what my team does. We run adoption.microsoft.com. And even that website is a blend of the technical and the human. And, we want to help people understand how to navigate through this strange hybrid world. One of the things I always do in my meetings is at some point, I will ask the people who haven't spoken yet, specifically if they have anything to share. Now, some folks, for cultural reasons and others, don't want to talk in a meeting, and that's okay. But I always make sure that people have some airtime. I'm a talker. I tend to talk a lot. So I'm trying to modulate that, right? Give room to other people, because that quiet person may have the idea that's just going to accelerate your results. They just need to be given room. I have a pretty robust seat at the table. My job is to create other seats, to make the table bigger. Don't let anybody convince you that there's only so many seats or only so many people can do so many things. That is scarcity thinking and completely incorrect. We can make the table bigger for everyone without taking things away from the folks who are already there. I feel very strongly about that, and it's something that I infuse into my business operations, my personal life, my programs, because this idea that there's only so much to go around, it's just frankly not true. You just have to think about the industry and the segments differently than we have in the past. So yeah, the People First Initiative, we bring feedback into our product development. We bring community voices in to meet product managers. We have these folks that we call MVPs. They're influencers in our particular area of practice, and the MVPs come in and brief us about what is life really like out there. Because if you ever work at a really large company, you have to be careful of the bubble. You work inside a big company and everybody starts to think the same way, and everybody starts to think that it is how it is in your headquarters, and I guarantee you it's not. The real world is very different from the corporate world, and my success is at least in part because I'm always connected to the real world, right? And what's actually happening out there instead of what's on our press release. I love our press release. I support our messaging, all of that. I do my good corporate citizenship. But my actual job is to bring an outside-in perspective to the people who make some of the key decisions in my company, so that they make decisions that ultimately are more successful. And that could be coding best practices, architecture of solutions, scenarios we need to prioritize, fixing some of the basic things in our product, or doing something like including pronouns. Right? That's not something that Microsoft product management would have thought about even 2 years ago. But it's something that we brought to the table, and others inside Microsoft, to say, hey, we really need to include this as a part of Microsoft 365. Let people choose to put in pronouns if they want to, and display them if they want to. That's an inclusive feature that we can build right into the product that acknowledges where we are today as a culture.
Well, and you move us nicely to our next point. And that is that, we're going to start zeroing now on this whole no code power program. So part of our goal is obviously to introduce our students to opportunities for participation in the digital ecosystem. But one of the things, as I mentioned in the end, or in the beginning, sorry, that you and I have in common is that we are passionate about equity, diversity, and inclusion for sure. So let's take a moment. I did, mention it in passing, right? We are vastly underrepresented when it comes to BIPOC and women. So let's talk about the current state of diversity in the tech sector, if you wish.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, well, I've been an African American woman my whole life and in a whole lot of rooms in the tech sector. And how it was is not how it is today. I'll give a little credit for forward movement. I'll never forget the time very early in my career. This is probably I've been in tech for almost 30 years, so this is 25 years ago or so. And I had been talking to this law firm, helping them to architect their new network and their upgrade to whatever version of Windows it was at the time. And their document management system. That was one of my specialties. I've been talking to them on the phone, audio only for weeks and weeks. And then I finally go to meet the managing partners and their CIO and all those people. And I walk in the room and they looked at me and they literally had a jaw drop moment. They had no idea that I was a woman of color because of the stereotypes about how women of color speak. And so, and the fact that I'm biracial obviously, influences that. But my father's from Kenya, not from Mississippi. Nothing wrong with being from Mississippi, but my father's actually Kenyan. He came here to get his degree and met my mother, who is white, and she's the one who raised me. So that's why I sound the way I sound. Whatever, who cares? But they did. Now, fast forward to today. I am often not the only woman in the room, but it's not so much about being in the room now. It's about what level are we in that room, right? There is a big glass ceiling when it comes to people of color and women in the technology business. And I don't believe I have to do things better than my fellows. I do believe I have to tell my story with more enthusiasm, right? That's why I work. That's why I do public speaking. It's why I work on being visible. They're not going to forget about me, right? Because if I do that, then the folks who don't like to do that, I can bring them along. There are researchers and data scientists who never want to be out speaking to a crowd of 50,000 people like I love to do. But I can go and do that and be visible and then bring them along in positions of power into that room. That's what I'm talking about, making the table bigger, adding extra chairs at that dinner table, making people feel welcome with their ideas. It's a big topic of conversation, but I'm not sure I see the results of that yet. I think we have to keep pushing. I think people like myself and others need to help you build the skills you need to do this and create your own opportunities. Nobody's ever handed me an opportunity like I have seen happen to other folks. And I often wonder, wouldn't I already be a corporate vice president if I was white and male? Maybe so. But my journey is my journey and I accept it. And I don't have any resentment about that, really. I simply am driven by doing everything I can to help other people build the right skills, tell their story, and own their own future. You know, I don't like to give away my power to the powers that be, right? I don't believe in that. I don't think it's necessary. My power, my story, my future is up to me and the people I choose to bring into my circle. There's an idea of having your own board of directors, right? Having your own set of advisors that can help you along your journey. And that to me has been invaluable in being able to navigate, the complexities of a career and a life. So, I think that there's a lot of work still to do. I'm not going to say it's easier, but it is different now that people like myself and others are in the room. And I think that there is only an upside when you combine, human skills with technical skills. There's really no limit to what you can do and how you can transform whatever industry you choose to be in. Technology is everywhere. So whether it's biotech or manufacturing or construction, which my husband is in, or something else, there's technical components to all of that. And the person in the room who can wield both industry knowledge and expertise and technical savvy, they win. I see it time and time again. And so, doing all that work with some humility and a good sense of humor makes a difference, right? Can open those doors for you.
Yes, thank you. And it's interesting because, like I said earlier, I came from a STEM sector. I was a molecular geneticist doing PCR way before anybody knew what PCR was. But I was oftentimes that one person in the room, and
Right.
nothing really changed much when I moved into IT. Um, so we have talked about a little bit, this whole thing about uh, why representation is important across general industry, right? And we've also talked about, hey, there's good money to be made for digitally enabled individuals. But part of what has driven me to this space also is the importance of technologies that are shaping society, which is something that I have talked about earlier, particularly AI, and how AI can be leveraged to do so much good, but if not properly thought of, structured, if proper data sets are not in place, if proper questions are not being asked, and so on. So can we talk a little bit more about that space for a little bit before we move forward to the no-code space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the ethical AI initiative that Microsoft and other companies have signed on to, I feel like is really important because, we already see how stereotypical assumptions in human behavior can cause dramatic and tragic results. I firmly believe that, I'll take a hot topic like a police brutality. I know it's been a little bit controversial, but just hear me out for a second. I believe that many police are operating with stereotypes about people of color, and that it infuses their decision tree when they are deciding how to handle a particular situation. They're also operating from a place of ignorance in some cases about people who have mental health issues. And so they make decisions with tragic results based on a faulty data set. So if we extend those faulty data sets into artificial intelligence, what do we think is going to happen? And those data sets are faulty because in the human behavioral analysis, as well as the artificial intelligence behavior analysis, because there's not enough of folks like you and I to inform that data set, right? Even down to language and different slang terms, facial features or expressions. I used to work with a woman who every time she felt a good deal of stress, she started to smile and laugh. And one time we were talking about a very, very bad an HR situation with an employee that there was nothing funny about. And she's smiling and laughing on the other end of the phone. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? And so these kinds of behavioral things, if trained into our AI, will have very bad effects. So we have to speak up for the usage and application of data and AI in inclusive ways. We have to participate. I see a lot of people who want to talk on Twitter about how dangerous AI is, but get an education, stand up and participate in the business if you feel that strongly about it. A lot of those folks don't even understand the way that you do machine learning, much less teach or write the algorithms to drive real artificial intelligence. And they don't understand quantum computing and what quantum computing is going to do to AI. Right. If I had to redo my career again, I would come back and I would do advanced mathematics as a central study area so that I could participate more directly in the quantum computing revolution that's coming, because it is going to be the heart and soul of what happens to AI. And behavioral, analytical psychology is incredibly important. So again, one of these topics that I feel very strongly about, but I feel like we have to have a seat at the table. But in AI, in quantum computing, in data analysis, you have to actually have a real education. That is not something I could have wung my way into with no college degree. You absolutely have to have that background. And in biotech as well, right? Like I yearn for the day when nanobots will go in and repair and remove viruses from the bloodstream. But if they don't know, the differences in application, based on racial profiles or others, then what are we going to do, right? We're going to have solutions that only serve one portion of the population. So it's really important that these areas of the business be inclusive. and that we do not replicate the human data set problems we have with our artificial intelligence. And that requires participation from people like me and all of you, for sure, because you will reap the benefits of that more so than I will. You know, I will be gone when some of these things create themselves. I know that. But I feel strongly that it's, you know, up to folks like myself who have some seniority in this business to inspire those of you who are going to live with the results to get involved. This is your future, right? That we're talking about. And so, you know, your insight, your input, your intelligence, your creativity is really important. And so I hope that this program is a stepping stone to that.
Yeah, thank you, and that actually brings us to that the program itself, what I call where the rubber meets the road. And we've been talking a lot about math and code and whatnot, but that if one looks at the current literature about participation, there seems to be this sort of very sharp focus on creating coders from a very early age, and yet the thing that I am passionate, one of the things I'm passionate about is the fact that there should be other on-ramps. There should be other ways to become a digital producer, a digital influencer besides writing code. So let's talk about things like, you know, low-code platforms and really more widely maybe around just what are other on-ramps besides math, coding, and things like that?
Absolutely. You know, to be a chief information officer at a mid-sized company, which is about $1 million a year job, you don't have to write code. You have to understand the application of technology into solving business problems. And I appreciate that everybody wants to write code today and teach our 3-year-olds how to write code. I don't personally find that useful. If somebody loves it, then great. But this idea that everybody should understand it like it's English is, I find, absurd. And I say that in every senior management meeting I can get to. And I'm so happy that there's a program like this one that already understands it. I don't have to convince anybody that there are other ways. So the low code, no code area is actually one of the fastest growing in the technology sector. Microsoft is not the only people who creates these sorts of modules. Other companies do as well. I know less about them than I obviously know about Microsoft, but what's important is being able to take these components that are pre-built. Somebody at Microsoft wrote the component for what we call a people picker, right? You go into a field, you type someone's name, it shows you a list of people. That's a people picker. Somebody else wrote a people picker, but you can place that people picker on a form because you want to build a mobile app for sign up for your community or for research feedback or whatever it is that you want. It's actually that project that's really important. And the thing that people don't talk about a lot is one of the reasons public sector and higher education and K through 12 education, one of the reasons they don't have a lot of these good solutions is because somebody's trying to sell them a custom development project that costs a ton of money because there are a bunch of developers who are going to write custom code. That's not fiscally sustainable. And it's why government agencies and these industries like and healthcare have these antiquated systems, right? Because the business model around it is wrong. This is where we come in. We can break that business model. We can transform that business model with low code, no code solutions that solve a problem, right? And are sustainable and supportable because they're built on accepted platforms without a $2 million investment in some custom project. That's actually the beginning of this phase of my career. I've had a couple of phases of my career. You know, I had the first phase of my corporate career that I talked about when I gave up dancing. And then I had my own company for 6 years. And then I came to Microsoft after a kind of a transformation of my personal life. And in this last phase, I was at a public company and someone was trying to sell them a project for like $250,000 to build a simple little form to track returns. And I'm like, you know, you own the Microsoft stack. You can build that form for free. You don't need to spend $250,000 on it. And they were like, well, do you know how to do that? And I said, well, sure. Now I didn't actually. But it's a form software. I'd already done a bunch of that. I figured I could figure it out, right? It wasn't that hard. And so I said, sure. And so then I became from there, the Microsoft person at Skechers, the shoe company. I became their chief SharePoint architect, and I eventually got promoted to run their worldwide e-commerce, right? All because I saved them $250,000 of custom coding by building the form myself, right? That was a low code, no code solution that transformed my career. And this is why it's important you have these skills no matter what area you're going to go into. Somebody always needs a form to capture data. Somebody always needs a way to interact with people. Somebody always needs, a way to show data, like visualizations and what have you, right? These are all low-code, no-code solutions that can be built pretty simply when you understand how to approach it. So it's a very powerful skill set, but it's also very important because the other problem with that custom code thing that some group is trying to sell an agency or a school is that you have to support it. Many people do not think about the support model of a custom design piece of software. It is extremely expensive. You are locked into having to do security patches and usability updates, and now there's accessibility and compliance things that regulations you have to pay attention to. Like, why do all that? Onboard to one of these low code, no code platforms and build things with components that already have to do that. Microsoft already has to be compliant to all those things I just mentioned. So if you use Power Apps and the Dataverse to build an app, or Azure bots or whatever you're going to use, it's already compliant with security protocols and data compliance and privacy and these things that are increasingly important when it comes to online technical solutions. We've all heard of ransomware at this point. We've all heard of a lot of, bad actors out there in the world. You want to use a reputable company's platform so that our group of data science or scientists are paying attention to that stuff, and you can build the app you want to build. So it's very important.
Yeah, speaking of apps, and I want to be mindful of time because we're getting still have a little bit over an hour to go, but I want to cover some other things. I think it's important. You talk about the transformational power of Power Apps in your own life. Let's take a look at our last video, which gives us another example of somebody's life who was really transformed by Power Apps. All right.
I don't just want to make a living. I want to make a difference. When I left school at 16, my dad was working in Heathrow at the time, and this opportunity came up as becoming a security officer. I thought, what a great opportunity, my dad used to take me here to see planes and everything. So why not work for a company or an airport like Heathrow? I've been a security officer for 13 years. When I saw the amount of paper and time we were spending, I saw an app would be a great solution for these problems to be solved. About a year ago, I started learning about the Microsoft programs. I went home and I looked at a blog from Power Apps, and it said, this is how you can build an app. And I thought, why doesn't no one know this? Because this could have so much potential to change so many things. We have saved 11,000 sheets of paper and saved around 288 hours of manual input data. Going from paper to digital has been amazing. It doesn't matter what your skill levels are like, anybody can build this app.
Him with his community of super users have created 17 Power Apps that are already being used across our airport, and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
My name is Sam Saini, and I'm a IT user adoption specialist at Heathrow. There's no limit of what you can create with new technology. I'll create a new career.
That's a super powerful story. Now, let's talk a little bit about Power Platform, and you've been referring to it. There are other players in it, Oracle, Salesforce, Mendix, OutSystems, some big companies, some smaller companies. And I think you started referring to this particular issue, and I know you get asked this question oftentimes, and that it's, why Microsoft?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. For me, there are two answers to that. There's the personal answer and the professional answer. So I'm actually going to give the personal answer first because I think it's a little bit, more meaningful or relevant. I want to work for a company that is inclusive of my ideas, that is striving to do good. And I'm not saying my competitors don't do that, but I am saying that the level of participation we have across our company for things like diversity, inclusion, belonging, the trust code that we have that we've actually published inside our company, the work that we do to align to data sovereignty rules and requests from people across the European Union. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money, and Microsoft leads in that area. And it leads from a commitment to empowering others. This motto that we have, we don't succeed until our customers succeed. It's not just a marketing campaign. People believe it here. We really believe it. And so I believe that being a part of the Microsoft ecosystem allows me to be my authentic self and continue to expand my career in ways that benefit my family directly. A couple of years ago, my husband was hurt pretty catastrophically, and I became the sole breadwinner for my family. The day that happened, I was running through an airport to go give a presentation to a large public agency, and I was immediately gone for 6 weeks to be by my husband's side in the hospital. And in that time, my Microsoft colleagues stepped up to cover my entire area in a way that I had really never been supported professionally before. And they did it in ways that continued the kind of emotional commitment that I have to my communities and to leading from a place of integrity. So I think Microsoft is a great place to be. But also on the technical side, we are the most comprehensive cloud in terms of our work across Azure, modern work, and the Power Platform and business applications area. Our ability to have your solution be created once and then published everywhere in terms of the partner ecosystem, the app stores that we have, and the capabilities that we offer is second to none. And our ability to do things like work all the way across higher education, every government agency, every small nonprofit and small business. There is not another company, I believe, in this business that has the footprint that we do. That's why we're valued, only second to Apple in the business, and sometimes we overtake them on a good stock market day. Our future is bright and comprehensive, and under Satya Nadella's leadership, our company is transformed. There's no doubt about it. His commitment to cultural transformation and inclusion, right from the top, is so important, and he is really forcing people to move forward in a growth mindset and an inclusive mindset. So from a technology perspective, from a business footprint perspective, and from a personal perspective, I don't think there's anyone that competes with Microsoft. That's not to say that we can't do things better. We have some awesome internship programs, but at the same time, the conversion of those interns to FTEs could be smoother. Our ability to recruit and be present for higher education events like this could be stronger. There's a lot of areas where we can continue to improve, but what I like is that we know that and we're working on it. Right? I have friends that work all across the business spaces, right? At Google, at Facebook, at Amazon. I know people pretty much everywhere, and it's small startups. And I'd put our culture up against any one of them, right? At any time, because we really do try to do the right thing, not just the popular thing. Just like the work that we've done during this pandemic. I had the privilege of leading our coronavirus response team in Microsoft Teams, and we worked directly on the solutions that many state governments were using to disseminate and track vaccines. And that may not have been that popular with some segments of the United States, but it was the right thing to do. Vaccine technology is, trusted, and we wanted to make sure that agencies were able to use technology to respond to this situation, this disaster that we were all dealing with. And so we've done a lot of things like that around, election technology and integrity, around COVID response and vaccine dissemination. When it counts, we're going to come down on the side of science and ethics, and that's where I want to work.
So I don't want our students to walk away from this conversation, believing that there's no space for coders, because I think you covered that already.
Oh yeah.
coders are building the sort of building blocks and the magic behind no code, low code. But I think it's also really important for us to take a minute and then go to questions from the students to talk about the fact that app building, the actual building of the app, is just sort of the meat in the middle of a larger sandwich that has to include user experience, design, abilities, and then distribution, bug fixing, and continuous improvement of the product, continuous engagement with the end users. There is a whole universe that needs to be kept in mind when one builds an app. And it's certainly something that this program will include for the students. We will not, this is, give you guys a heads up. The first thing we're going to do next week is not going to be build an app. It's actually going to talk about how we will build an app that is going to solve a specific problem that is going to be brought to you. So let's talk for a moment about this, and then let's switch over to Q&A.
Absolutely. So you're referring what we call the Agile product management framework. You will hear a lot of people out there in the business. There's a lot of different frameworks for product design and development. Not all of them include support and feedback and community. Ours does, or the way I teach it at any rate. And it's something that we'll be building into those Microsoft Learn segments and courses that I was talking about. But, feedback is the most important thing you can have while designing and deciding what business problem to solve. It's really the voice of the end user population you're trying to serve. And then thinking about it through that entire life cycle of deployment and support and continuous improvement. Gone are the days where you could release a particular app or experience and not continue to get more features and evolve it. But yet none of that would happen without the people writing the code on the back end. I mean, my developer friends and people who are, I'm a developer, but there are people who that's all they do, inside Microsoft is write code. They're magicians as far as I'm concerned, right? I can go to them and tell them, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Can you make the code do that? And then they do, and then off we go, right? And so it's a very important talent and skill. It just doesn't happen to be what sings to me, right? I want to be able to do more than just that. It's one of the reasons I produce my show on YouTube also. I'm a storyteller, and I really enjoy being able to do that. But what's been cool is being able to take my creative talents in storytelling and not only have my own show on YouTube, but take that information back to the people building features for Microsoft Teams, webinars, and live meetings like this to help improve this specific experience. So coding is essential, but there is a product management lifecycle that includes all those things that Dr. Solis mentioned that gives lots of room for, as he mentioned in the last video, creating a new career. Right? You can create and improve the career you want to have or make a new one out of the things that you can learn in this program. And so, I'm really excited for what you're all going to learn next. I hope to come back maybe at the end and hear your readouts and hear what you learned. I'd love to be invited back, Doctor, because I'm really excited to see what comes next. And this is one of the things that if I had the time, I would participate as a student because it's just fun to do. But, I think it's really important that you think about the entire ecosystem and what it can mean to you. Before I take your questions, I want to say one thing. Own your path. This is your career. You can do whatever you want. And your plan can change quarter over quarter or year over year, but just be committed to learning both the people skills and the technical skills that will allow you to craft whatever is meaningful to you. And what might be meaningful to you, you don't have to know, right? I didn't know that this is what I wanted to be. I found it along the way, and I listened to other people, and I changed courses when I needed to. And that what has allowed me to become successful is being committed to creating a better future for myself and my family and taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of me. So I'm really glad that you're here in this program because this is one of those opportunities that can really change the trajectory of your career alongside knowing people like the advisors that are here and the people who are passionate about these issues. So I'm just, happy to be here, as I've said.
Well, thank you very much. And by the way, consider yourself invited to our closing ceremony. It will be March 25th.
Oh, great.
Same bat channel, same time, 2 to 4. So
I will do my best. That's our big Microsoft Build conference. So maybe there's something we can do between the two of them together. You never know. Maybe I could bring a video of some of your stuff to build. That could be possible.
that would, yeah.
So let's talk about that for sure.
Okay, and yes, so let's go ahead. Let's stop our spotlighting here and really invite our students. So students, Caruana told you that there are different personalities and quiet ones in the room. Unfortunately, I actually don't live by that by that motto. There is going to be a rule in this thing in this program, and it's a hashtag no passing. I think it's important that whenever we're present in a room and we have an opportunity to talk, especially if we are represented a minority group and an underrepresented group, it's almost our job to get noticed and to contribute. So let's go ahead and there's no judgment, there is no risk. Let's just ask whatever you feel like asking, and we invite you to ask.
Yep, and there's nothing you can't ask me. So whatever it may be, go ahead. Who's going to be first?
I'll go first.
Thank you.
So what was like the moment, or I guess like the biggest win in like your career that like kind of solidified that you picked the right career choice? Like what was like the moment where you're like, yeah, this is like I picked a good career?
Wow, that's a great question. There's been a couple, right? Probably because my career's been long. I think the first one was really getting that. So I got this general manager job. It was a really big job. I was running professional services for all of Southern California for a company that did technology implementations. And they flew me to New York for the interview, and I nailed it. And I knew I did. And I knew that I was what they needed. They needed somebody with my particular skill set on sales and technology and business operations. And I knew that I was in the right place at the right time. And I had one of those recently, also more recently, about 5 years ago. When I came to Microsoft, I was actually working in Microsoft IT. I was in charge of adoption and moving systems to the cloud. And I got involved in this tiny little project called Microsoft Teams. And I just knew it was going to be a thing. And they reorged me, and I wouldn't let go of that project because I knew it was going to be a thing. And I wanted that product group to invite me in. I wanted them to want me. I didn't want to ask for a job over there. I wanted them to recruit me. And the day that they recruited me, they were like, "We think you're fantastic. You should come and work with us." I was like, yes, I made the right choice to hang on to this, even when it was unpopular with some of my colleagues because they wanted in too, but I just wouldn't let it go. And I will tell you one other thing about that. The reason they recruited me in Microsoft Teams was because I was the only person on the day of the preview launch, the global preview launch of the product, to have my systems fall over. And in front of all of those people, I had to deal with a massive system failure when everybody else's systems were working. And that failure got me that job because I handled it with grace and a sense of humor, and I was calm under pressure, and I was inclusive, and I was clear in my communication. And they were like, "We need her." So sometimes what looks like a failure on the front can actually be the thing that really helps you. Awesome question.
Thank you. Yeah, because I have spoken to some people that I know, like, because we had to do a project last year in my construction class, kind of asking people from our hometown, like construction managers, and they all said the same thing. Like, it was kind of just, just in the moment stuff you don't expect to happen. Just one thing leads to the other, and then they end up getting where they are, and usually they're happy where they're at and have no like complaints.
Yeah, and I'll say that when I owned my own company, I did a wide diversity of different kind of stuff. I did a lot of production work and creative marketing and technical analysis, but I also helped run my partner at the time's construction company. And we had the worst project. Oh, the worst project in the world. It just went on and on forever, and the change orders wouldn't get signed. And And it turned out that the GC on it was a real problem. And, through all of that difficulty, I actually learned the most about project management and about communications and about being willing to say no. Even when people dangle dollars in front of you, saying no has actually been more powerful in my career than saying yes sometimes. Because at this point, I only partner with people where I really feel like we have an alignment in style and in strategy and commitment to integrity and what have you. I just won't work with the other folks. And I've created a life where I get to do that. You can't always. But that painful project in that construction business, boy, I'll never forget that. And how difficult it was. It was during the boom. It was after 9/11, and a lot of things were going on. But saying no can also be very powerful a moment. Who else has a question?
1, 2, 3. The first
I
one.
have a question.
Oh, great. Saved everybody else, Stina.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, that's a good one. Be more confident, take no shit. Right? I would, because when I was younger in my career, I was pretty defensive. I was pretty insecure. I was concerned about how I looked to other people. It's not that I don't care about those things now, but I didn't need to be so defensive because I was the woman in the room. I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder that had come from some of the racism and sexism I had experienced as a young girl. I didn't trust other people because of my family situation. I figured if I couldn't do it myself, it wasn't going to get done. And it led me to ride solo when I should have been riding with a team. So I wish that I didn't really unpack all that and learn about that till I was probably 35 or almost 40. And I wish that I could have done that sooner. And I probably would tell myself to finish that degree. I probably would, if only because it bothers me sometimes that I didn't finish it. It feels like unfinished business that I dropped out and only focused on my professional life. And I miss school. Now I went back not that long ago to MIT for a digital transformation executive series, and I love that. And the leader of that series, he's like, you got to let it go, right? You've learned more in 25 years than you ever would have learned from that degree, but it still bothers me. So I probably would tell myself to hang in there and get it done. But mostly it would be about let go of the chip, like exhale. You don't really have to I didn't have to prove myself the way I thought I did. That whole common conversation about you have to be 10 times better if you're a woman or an African American woman. I don't believe that anymore. I don't have to be 10 times better. I have to be myself because that's already different. And what you need to be is different, not better. I didn't know that, So yeah, that's definitely what I would tell myself for sure. To floss. I can't resist. I would have, yeah. A little less coffee, a little less alcohol, a little more food.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I have a question. That
Sure.
was first. I was just really eloquent. My question, because you said that you also have a business. How do you find like balance between work and business? Like, what inspires your business?
Oh, great question. So I used to own my own company. I suppose I still have it in name, but I actually don't have time for my own company anymore. So let me clarify. I had two businesses. So I had a technical career. You can see it on LinkedIn. Like I was VP of product marketing or a professional services marketing. And then I went and ran my own company for 6 or 7 years. But alongside that, for a long time, I've been a grief counselor. I found a home for all the trauma that has happened to me and all the people in my life that have died, my friends who have committed suicide, my friends and family who have been devastated by addiction, in doing this sort of grief counseling. And so my practice, as I refer to it, I still have. And I keep my practice, and I don't advertise those services. I get referred people, usually on the worst day of their lives. They come to me for help because it helps me to help others. And that actually fuels my creativity at work, especially when I'm writing about things like people first or leadership or transformation or inclusion. And it reminds me how lucky I am. right? How privileged I am to be in this place in my life. So my business that used to do production and digital consulting, what have you, I don't do any independent consulting anymore, but I definitely still see clients from a grief counseling perspective. And if I was actually going to go back to school, that's the degree I would get. I would not get a degree in computer science. I would get one in psychology. Um, and actually I'm investigating a program like that right now because I feel like there's a lot of trauma in the world, and people operate from that trauma without understanding that's what they're doing. Happens in business all the time. And trauma and fear drive a lot of decisions that ultimately don't have good outcomes. So, and there's certainly, I see this a lot with the vets that I'm around because of I work in public sector with the military. I think the police officers deal with trauma every day and they don't resolve it, and it makes terrible outcomes and decisions. And it happens in business too. So the balance I get from that is that work feeds me, whereas a lot of the work I do at Microsoft, I'm feeding others. And for me, a successful career is about having a balance between what feeds your soul and when are you feeding others, right? That has to be a full circuit. You see a lot of women in business who are just completely burnt out, and you read articles about how they're leaving the workforce. I think they're leaving because they never found that place where they were getting fed and then being able to feed others. Sometimes as women, we take on too much and we fail to learn how to say no and hold other people accountable for doing their part, right? It's not my job to do everybody else's job. It's my job to find a way to be the best I can be, my own authentic self and what matters to me. So yeah, the balance is, I only take clients on Tuesdays and Thursday nights so that I have time for my marriage and my family. Um, and I limit it to how many clients I'll take. I only take 6 active clients at a time. So boundaries around that secondary kind of side hustle, if you will, help me to have that be a good thing in my life rather than something that ultimately drains me and keeps me from not being able to, be with my husband, who I actually like. So I like to hang out with him.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who has not asked a question yet, Doctor?
Oh, we have plenty of people who have asked a question. The other part, though, is I'm mindful of the time because we need to cover some of the basics of what we need to do next week. But I think we have time for one more question. And so we are going to pick somebody who hasn't spoken yet. And I think Angel hasn't spoken yet. So Angel, it's on you to do the fantastic closing question for the interview section.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. So I was wondering about what does it take to be a QA tester, and what specific qualities do people look into that in your field?
Well, Microsoft disbanded that entire department about 10 years ago. They don't exist anymore. So what you have now is what we call quality and customer obsession PMs. And what we do, so there are no more testers in general. The feedback process and what we call early ring deployments have replaced that. And that's pretty common in the industry right now, at least in some parts of it, where you recruit people to what you call technology adoption programs or early adoption programs, and your customers become your testers. And that's how you find and recruit people who are super passionate about whatever product you're working on, because they want to be in those what we call early rings or pre-release rings of the product. We do this extensively at Microsoft across all of our product areas. And then people like myself, we take the data and the feedback from those early adopter programs and take it back to the people actually coding the product to help them refine it and repair bugs and what have you. And so, yeah, I would never advise anybody to aspire to be a tester at this point in the business. I would aspire you to understand the pipeline of early adoption through general product release and beyond, because that feedback mechanism is what drives product development today. And there's a lot of machine learning in it. So there's data science, data analytics, visualization, and machine learning that we use in a system that we call OCV, One Customer Voice. And there's literally billions of records in multi-petabyte data set that allows us to understand what people are saying about the product before, during, and after release. So I do a lot of querying of that system. I save queries. I do data visualizations. Like, what did they say about saving a document in Teams 2 months ago versus what they say now after we tweak the interface a little bit, so I can analyze improvements. Sometimes minute improvements to the experience will create a lot more satisfaction and a reduction in support costs or tickets coming in around that issue. So that's really the model that we have at Microsoft today. And I know that there's similar ones at other companies. There's a few places that do testing, but a lot of it is offshore. It's not onshore anymore. It's moved there. I don't know that I love that, but it's just the way the business has gone. So some of the development and the testing have gone offshore to the extent that we do have test groups. They're not FTEs at Microsoft anymore, full-time employees. That we contract that from a supplier, and they get a group of folks that do basic fundamental security testing. Right, that kind of testing still exists. Penetration testing, security testing, compliance, and accessibility are either automated or run by an offshore team.
Well, thank you, Caruana. I really appreciate your time today. You're welcome to stay for the rest of this presentation if you have the time.
Thank you. I will go ahead and depart, but again, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about what you all are going to do. Doctor, let's get some time on the calendar in a couple weeks and talk about your closing ceremonies and also build upcoming and what we can continue to do. You can count on us to support this program in any way that you need. And just wonderful to meet all of you. And I hope you enjoy everything that you're going to learn here, because y'all have a bright future. It's going to be killer.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Here. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.